Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by Ross O'Hare, my guy. Ross comes on from time to time. Wanted to talk a little bit of Arizona athletics, kind of talk about some different grades, everything going on. So what's on your mind, Ross? How you doing, my man?
Hey, I'm doing good, Mike. How you doing?
Not too bad, buddy. Let's get this one rolling.
That's right, man. Yeah, so I was thinking we're winding up the Arizona Wildcat athletic department seasons. Obviously, baseball's still going, softball and a few other sports are going. But I figured we kind of give a rundown of the entire year, look back and see. I was thinking about like 5 years ago. I think this is something you've talked about before. Where Arizona was at 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. As an athletic department, and where we're at today. So it's just one of those things where I figured we could look back. Look at how the whole athletic department's doing, and then kind of give it grades or give an assessment of where we're at today. So
I'm in on that one, my man.
Yeah. So, the four main ones I think we can talk about are going to be basketball, football, baseball, and softball, right? Those are the ones that people follow the most, know the most about, that Arizona has been, are connected to Arizona. Obviously, Arizona hasn't been great at football, but the other three Arizona's been good at. Arizona's known as a baseball school, softball school, and a basketball school. So those three are going to be good. But I'll give it to you. What do you think your assessment is of basketball, where we're at, between now and 5 years ago?
Man, it's hard not to be incredibly excited with where things are, because the FBI hadn't come yet, but now we have the advantage of hindsight and knowing what was about to happen and what was about to transpire.
Yeah.
There was obviously some stuff going on right there that shouldn't have been going on. And the product started to diminish as well on the court. So, I look at it and, Tommy Lloyd was kind of a head scratcher for quite a few people. But at the same time, this is why those athletic directors and those presidents get paid the money that I don't get paid, because, it turned out to be a stroke of genius, because I think it's hard to look at Lloyd on the court and from recruiting and say that this wasn't an A+ hire.
Yeah. Well, what did you think at the time? Were you on board with it, or were you kind of skeptical?
I didn't. I've always liked what Gonzaga has done. I like the style, love the style of play.
Yeah.
But honestly, I didn't know a lot about him. I thought that they, and you generally in a program like Arizona, you don't go for like the hot assistant. So I didn't really know, I didn't really know what to expect. So when he was hired, I was like, interesting. But he was able to keep everybody on the team. He was able to recruit. And again, he was able to get everybody playing the way that they needed to play. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously, I think where we're at between now and 5 years ago, we're in a way better position. Obviously, just because, like you said, the FBI stuff, but there was this general malaise beginning to settle on the program within the last 5 years. And, some of it can be directly tied to Miller. Some is just because of the FBI stuff and ESPN and all the things that Arizona basketball was kind of drugged through. But ultimately, it kind of feels like, the moment this season tipped off and we had the success we did, the style of play, what Tommy Lloyd brought to the program. It really was like the clouds parted, and it was like a whole new feeling for Arizona basketball. It's one of the most enjoyable basketball seasons, I can remember in the last.
And it was
10
so
years.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, exactly. I'm ecstatic about where basketball's at. Recruiting's taken off, with what he's doing this offseason, getting his full first class in, his true first class.
Right.
And, so I think we're in a better position. Obviously, I think with the FBI coming down, hopefully the IARP will have some kind of resolution within the next, this summer, hopefully, or maybe early fall. But once that's behind us, that'll truly be the nail in the coffin for that whole era of FBI Arizona basketball, hopefully. And then we can just move on. And I think, again, with what Tommy showed, I think, sky's the limit for where we're at with basketball.
Yeah, and I think it's also very indicative, too, that I think it's easier to go to the NCAA or for the NCAA to look and say, okay, obviously some things went down that shouldn't have gone down there. But you can look at it now and you can also say that, those people aren't there anymore. The ship seems to have been righted, and they did self-sanction themselves on a team that probably would have made the tournament. So I think that, I think that was a wise move on all sides right there. What also is a wise move, real quick, Built Bar.
That's right.
You look at these guys right here. You look at an Umar Ballo, and you say to yourself, how could he be so strong? And you know what, Ross? I look at it, and I wonder if Built Bar is part of that equation. Check out Built Bar.
You were going to look at me and say that. I thought you were going to look at me and say, hey.
I'm going to look at you. I'm going to look at me. I'm going to look at Umar Ballo and say that, what, there's something going on there.
That's exactly right.
Let's take a quick break. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by guest host Ross O'Hare. Ross is the man. All right, Ross, we're talking the grades on the Arizona athletic department. Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, so what's your final grade on Arizona basketball?
A+. I think it's hard to look at Tommy Lloyd and not, obviously would have liked to have gone a little further in the tournament, but just think about where we were at this time last year to now. I'm not going to beat him up over that one.
I agree, for sure. Yeah, so let's move on to football now. We can talk obviously where football's at between now and 5 years ago, and we'll kind of discuss it, and then you can give your grade at the end. So what do you think?
When Jedd Fisch was hired, I didn't like it. I didn't. This was kind of a career journeyman.
Who did you want?
What's that?
Who did you want?
That's a great question. I would have probably gone for the Navy coach again if I could have gotten him. I just wanted stability. I wanted something where I could win 7 games and call it a day.
Yeah, we were at that point for sure.
Yeah, that's all I wanted, man. Just bring back some kind of credibility. But Jedd Fisch gets hired, and obviously Arizona went 1-11. But the thing that really has stuck out to me, Ross, is that he wants to be here, and that's a big thing when you're dealing with Arizona football. And again, 1-11, I get that. But you brought in a top 25 recruiting class. You're looking at possibly following that up with another dynamic one. I mean, he's still got to show he can coach on the field, but he certainly wins all the offseason battles.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually call him like the Santa Claus of the offseason. Like,
right, for sure. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. And my worry is that and this is going to sound really, corny, but it's like I don't want him to be the Grinch of the regular season. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't want him to not be able to coach. And I truly think that he can. Now, will he be like an amazing coach, X's and O's wise? I don't think he's going to be like a Rich Rodriguez or somebody who can do a lot with less.
Right.
But I do think that he can. I mean, he's going to have more talent than Rich Rodriguez ever did. Right. I mean, he's because of his recruiting ability. And so, it's funny. I was looking back. One of the things that's hard to do when you're comparing Arizona between now and 5 years ago is it's not in a vacuum. Right.
Right.
And because we're also within the Pac-12 Conference landscape, and then we're in the national landscape. And you look at 5 years ago, the Pac-12 had, I think, one of the highest numbers of NFL players drafted into the NFL from the Pac-12 5 years ago. This last year, we have 25 in the entire draft, right? I mean, that's
just
crazy.
Isn't good enough. I mean, it's just not,
Yeah, it's really not. And so you look at it, it's like, is Arizona in a better position today than 5 years ago? Yes, because I think the Pac-12 is not as good, right? I mean, there's just not as much talent into the Pac-12 right now, which gives Arizona an opportunity not to beat a USC necessarily, but to, be in the next tier of conversation.
There's a little of a vacuum there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, I think with all of that, I think things are looking up. I mean, we haven't beat ASU in 5+ years and we just haven't done that. And I think until we do that, we can't give them like a really high grade. We've got to start winning some games, beating ASU, but I'd give them a solid B with where we're at right now. Again, till I see it on the field, I can't give them much higher than that.
Yeah, I can't go any higher than that either, Ross. Like, if they had won 4 games this year, maybe it's a little bit different. But you still, at the end of the day, you were 1-11 and you lost to NAU.
Exactly,
I'm not going to beat you up for that, but at the same time, I need to see something on the field. I'd like to see 4 or 5 wins this year. I think that's capable. We'll be able to know a lot more about that. If you wanted to do anything about it, you could go to betonline.sportsbook, and they would check out everything. They're going to have over-unders. They're going to have all the bets you want. That's your one-stop shop for anything sports betting, sports-related. Again, NBA playoffs going on right now. You got baseball. That's the place you want to be. All right, let's take a quick break. All right, thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. Mike Luke, joined by guest host Ross O'Hare. Ross, talking about different hires in the athletic program and assessing the state. Where are we going next, my man?
Yeah, well, let's talk baseball and softball. Obviously, with two new head coaches. So you can pick whichever one you want to go first. But in this next segment, let's cover both of those.
Okay, so baseball is interesting to me because obviously Jay Johnson did some pretty good stuff while he was here. Left a fairly talented roster. You watched Arizona early on, and you're like, wow, all right, it's going to be a top 15 team. But as the season's gone on, they've hit some speed bumps. There's certainly been some plays where, a lot of errors where you're wondering what exactly is going on there. And it feels like a team that won't host in the College World Series, but will have a chance. Overall, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because Jay Johnson also did take so much of his team with him to LSU, so much of his recruiting class.
And some top talent, too.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's kind of an up and down. It's kind of a mixed bag. I'm certainly not going to beat up Chip Hale too much. I'd probably go about a B-. What do you got?
Yeah, see, the thing to me is I think Jay Johnson was a little overrated. Because obviously he took us to the College World Series in his first year in 2016. But, I mean, I think that was with a lot of previous, with Andy Lopez's players, like previous coaching staff's players. So he obviously you can't fault a coach for taking the team to the World Series. But still, he's using someone else's players. And then he makes, College World Series 2 times after that in the next 5 years.
Right.
And his last year he makes it. But the reason I don't think it's great, he had the Super Regional and the Regionals in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing home games.
You're playing home games to get there for sure.
Right, exactly. Right. And so, obviously the way he left also, I just say, I'd rather not have him around. If he's willing to do that to this team and he's willing to leave that way, we're better off without him. Now, with Chip Hale, see, the thing is with Arizona baseball, we don't have to make a risky hire. Like, it's not necessary for us to do that.
I agree with that.
We're a baseball school. Like, we are good at baseball.
It's a top 10 program all time for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would even argue potentially it's top 5 or 6, potentially. Right. And so the problem is I don't know if Chip Hale is such a home run hire that we could have had. Now, I don't know the landscape of all the college baseball coaches that were available, but there is some risk with it, right? Obviously, with his Diamondback tenure, which is difficult to translate to recruiting in college baseball. But so far, I mean, I can't be mad at what he's done. It hasn't been a great season, but it hasn't been a dumpster fire, right? And
for sure.
And he was left, though, with a pretty good roster. Like you said, Jay Johnson took some of his good talent with him. But he's recruited pretty well. I mean, he's recruited in-state really well.
Right.
He's got 4 or 5 of the top 10 Arizona players coming to Arizona, which is what you need to do. So he's proven that he can do that. Let's just hope he can actually coach game by game throughout a couple seasons. So
yeah, for sure.
I'd give him a B+ right now. I mean, I'm not upset about it.
Yeah, not at all. All right, now Arizona softball, obviously the most successful program historically at the University of Arizona. Mike Candrea leaves last year. You have Caitlin Lowe take over. They get off to a horrible start. They seem to have righted the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
Where do you go? What are your initial thoughts there, Ross?
Well, the thing is, softball's all about pitching recruiting. Like, if you can get a pitcher, then you're going to be good. And Arizona has just not done that. I mean, it hasn't even just been with Caitlin Lowe, because obviously this is more Candrea's players than it is hers. But Candrea the last 5 or 6 years didn't recruit great pitchers.
Right.
And so she was kind of left with, you hate to say it because these women are out here doing everything they can, but they're left with, above average pitchers. And in the Pac-12 landscape, you can't do that. I mean, you can't compete that way. The UCLA's, ASU's worn us out this year. And so it's kind of hard to judge her specifically, but I'd say overall softball in general is like a C right now.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's hard to go anything higher than that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It could even be C- or I don't know about a D, but because I think there is hope. We have a big pitcher coming in who hopefully
California Player of the Year for sure.
Yeah. Right. So who knows potentially? What about you?
I honestly, I'm in the same boat, my man. I go with the C. I can't really, and it's kind of an incomplete too. I can't really sit here and say, now listen, if we're having this same exact issues next year, then I need to start looking a little bit more at Caitlin Lowe. But this is also such a transition period from a guy who was a 30-year, 30-plus year coach.
A legend.
a legend, and that, obviously it's not the most talented team that Arizona's ever had, but she's recruiting well. And like I said, like next year, I think you need to be back in that top 12 realm. I'd like to see somewhere in there, and then, continuously move up. So I'd go a C/incomplete right there.
Yeah. Well, I got one final question for you. What about the athletic department in general? So not the sports, but so Dave Hickey, the athletic department, what's your grade for them right now?
I give them a solid B+. I mean, they've made some hires that were, Tommy Lloyd. Let's be honest. Tommy Lloyd is the hire that really, really matters here in Tucson.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you aced that one right there. Jedd Fisch was an outside the box hire, but at the same time, it could work. It might not. But he's certainly bringing in the kind of talent that, at least if he can coach, he's going to be able to show something. So I'd go a B+ on that.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, I think that, if you go back even just a year ago, when Jedd was hired, when Lloyd was hired, it was trending towards like a C- type of idea.
Right.
With the,
no doubt.
I even remember Jason Shear tweeting out that the athletic department was in like shambles, that there was internal struggles and stuff going on. But then you turn around a year later, and the turnaround that's happened with Jedd Fisch doing what he's doing, with Tommy Lloyd doing what he's doing, like all these hires, everything that they've done, I think you got to point the arrow up. Obviously, if I'm starting at a C or C-, the arrow's pointing up. I might not go B+ yet, because I think there's a few higher, who knows what Jedd can do game-wise. Who knows what Caitlin Lowe is going to work out, or Chip Hale. But you've got, like you said, the hire that matters is Tommy Lloyd with basketball, and that's crushed. I mean, Dave Hickey got that one right. And I think we can say that conclusively. And so, on that alone, I think he goes up into the B stratosphere. I think it's a B- going towards a B or B+, depending on those other three hires too. So
no problem with that, my man. He's Ross O'Hare. Ross, really appreciate you hopping on, my man. This is always fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, I'm Mike Luke. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wild.